do that, that their God is calling them to do that, and he better let them go. And so he says, but I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. After that, they will let you go. Y'all, it's not just that. It's not just saying, I'm going to do a lot of mighty signs. It's why. God is showing, because when they could have believed, he hardens the Pharaoh's heart. God is showing his power. He is identifying himself in the book of Exodus. More than any other time, he is making it very, very clear just who he is and how powerful he is and what he can control. So if there's any question, even in a pagan land where they worship all kinds of things, from animals to weather to everything, he's going to say, I control all of that. And he's got to show them and us, all of us here from the planet, once and for all, just who he is. There's nothing beyond him, and if you think that you are, you're sadly mistaken. Listen to him. He says, I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed towards this people, so that when you leave, you will not leave empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living around her for articles of silver and gold and clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters, and you will plunder the Egyptians. That mattered in ancient worlds. It's considered a victory. Okay, so in chapter 4, Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to what I say? When I say the Lord, and they say the Lord didn't appear to you. The Lord said, what is that that you have in your hand? Moses said, a staff. And he goes, throw it on the ground. He threw it on the ground. It became a snake. It says he ran from it. I think it's kind of funny because I think I would too. Then the Lord said, reach out your hand and take it by its tail. This is the guy who just ran from the snake, and God's saying, take it by its tail. And he's like, okay. He always does obey him. So Moses reached out to the hold of the thing. It turned back into the staff. This, said the Lord, is so that they will believe that I am the Lord, the God of the fathers. It keeps saying this over and over. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Why does it keep saying that? Why does he keep saying that? All that mouthful of stuff every time he identifies himself? Because he is making it clear after what we just read. This is who he is. This is that God. He is the only God. And he is going to show them and us, all the world, just who he is by what is fixing to happen. A turn in history. Then the Lord said, put your hand in front of your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and then he took it out, and his skin was leprous. He put it back in. It was white as snow. He put it back into the cloak, and he pulled it back out, and it was restored just like the rest of his flesh. And the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second sign. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. I don't think there's anything to ignore about that either, that it turns to blood. Water turns to blood. And it almost sounded like when you first read that God's saying, well, if they don't believe that, they might believe this. If they don't believe that, they might believe this. That's not the attitude at all. He's saying, I'm going to give you several signs, and if they don't believe, he already knows they won't, then you're going to do this. In other words, I'm doing many miracles in front of them. Why? I'm showing myself. I'm showing my power. And boy, does it get big. It gets really out of hand at some point. Those of you who've read it before, you're going to read it again. Moses said, pardon your servant. Excuse me, Lord. I've never been eloquent. I'm slow of speech, and I have a tongue problem. Some people say he has speech impediment, like stuttering or something. Maybe he just couldn't get it out. Maybe that was the form of stuttering. And the Lord said to him, who gave the human beings mouths? This is tough reading right here. Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? If you've ever wondered the answer to that question, he just answered it. Because here's the thing. People don't want to believe that God does that because it seems mean. I remember the first time I read about the blind man in the Bible that was healed. I was like, well, God, why did you make him blind? And he's like, so I could heal him right now. It wasn't just my questions. The disciples had the same question. Why? So he could heal him right then, because what does it do? It shows his power. And that blind man got to be mentioned in the Bible, and God healed him. And I'm like, yeah, but he spent his whole life blind. It's like God miraculously